Hi, my name is Morten Jensen from the NBA Show, and today I'm here to talk to you about Bradley Beal and whether or not he should be traded or actually be kept so you could build around him. Crazy concept, right? Stay tuned. So everyone is really busy trying to send away Bradley Beal in a trade, and I am not perfect either. I have done the same because it is an appealing situation. Bradley Beal can fetch a ton of draft capital, a bunch of young players. The Washington Wizards could basically just pivot into a complete youth movement if they wanted to by simply trading Beal. And while that has a lot of appeal for a franchise that's been kind of stuck in the mud for a while, you have to ask yourself at some point, where do we actually acquire the most? Do we get the most out of actually keeping Bradley Beal around and maybe trying to add to him by not trading for Russell Westbrook, but that's besides the point? Or do we get most out of the future by moving him and getting even more pieces in? Because you could make the argument that the Washington Wizards already have a significant portion of young players. You have Thomas Bryant, who unfortunately went down with the ACL tear. You have Deni Avdija, a very promising Israeli forward. You have Rui Hachimura, the Japanese small forward, power forward, kind of combo forward, who you will absolutely build around moving forward. And then you have Troy Brown Jr., who is not playing a whole lot for insert ridiculous reason here. He should be playing more. I mean, come on, Scotty. Come on, man. He's my MIP choice. You really gonna do that to me? That's not cool. But honestly, I can't help but feel that we're missing the big picture here. Having someone like Bradley Beal is not easy to find again if you move him. Like, it's really rare to have someone of that caliber. He's averaging over 33 points a game. He's an all-around player who's like near 5 assists and 5 boards per game, actually a little bit over in the assist department. He is objectively a star. You could argue, is he a clear-cut tier 1 superstar? No. Is he probably the second best player on a championship team? Yes. That has value though. You don't need to break it all down just to start over because you still need that number 1 guy. The first thing is you need to identify the right pieces to maintain and to keep around that you could actually move later on in trades. And what I'm talking about here is actually sacrificing the future. And I know for a lot of fans, that is just not something you even dare suggest. Because if you have a bunch of young players, you kind of want them to grow and establish trade value or even potentially become stars down the line. But this is where we have to ask ourselves, what is the top tier potential outcome here of the players already on Washington squads that are young and have a lot of potential going for him? Is Rui Hachimura going to end up better than Bradley Beal? I highly doubt it. Troy Brown? I like him, but no. Isaac Bonga? Come on. Like, no. Right now, it's fair to assume that Bradley Beal is the best at what they have right now, and it's fair to assume that the young players are not going to become the same caliber of player that Beal is at any point during their career. That does not mean you have to trade them. That's not the point, but if you find a trade that actually adds a significant level of talent to Bradley Beal, who isn't necessarily a young person, but someone who is in the same age bracket, age 26 to 29, something along those lines, then it becomes interesting. I think the worst thing they could have done is actually go all in on Russell Westbrook because he's earned a ton of money and he's just not the right fit for Washington, for Beal, and to move off him right now is actually probably going to cost you assets. You're not going to get assets back for Russell Westbrook, at least I don't think so. It doesn't appear that way. He's been dreadful. Let's just be honest here. But if we take that aside, you still have all those Washington trade chips in terms of the young guys. You may not want to ship out Thomas Bryant right now with the ACL tear. I have to imagine his value is really, really low. So you probably have to wait a year and get him back and then see what kind of shape he's in. That could take a while. That could be a long-term project. And hell, Thomas Bryant might actually be the one exception to hang on to because he's such a multifaceted center. He can shoot and rebound and score, generally speaking. Like, there's a lot going for him. So if he comes back fully healthy, you could make the argument there's a place there. But that said, if someone does hit the market, someone of value, let's say a Kawhi Leonard has decided he doesn't want to be part of the Los Angeles Clippers moving forward. Again, this is hypothetical. I think he will be. I'm thinking we're going to be seeing Kawhi in a Clippers uniform for the foreseeable future, absolutely. But let's just say he makes it clear to Clippers management, I don't want to stay after this year, where he's a free agent. Well, then it kind of behooves the Clippers to go, well, Kawhi, then we actually need to trade your ass, because we want to get something in return. If we lose you for nothing in free agency, we're kind of screwed. So let's see what we can get, in which case Washington should put in all their chips in terms of young guys, maybe Russell Westbrook for salary, salary matching, some draft picks, whatever. In that way, you are building somewhat around Bradley Beal, but you're getting that first guy in that you really need. Oh, obviously, this is a very dramatic example, and it's probably not going to pan out that way because, as we know, Kawhi loves LA, but it's the type of deal that you could find somewhere in the league. We see it all the time. James Harden wanted out of Houston just a month ago. It happens on a regular basis. Before that, it was Anthony Davis. These top-tier talent guys, they do become available to a certain point and to a certain extent, and that's where the Washington Wizards should try to capitalize. That means putting an effort in right now in just giving those guys, the young guys that is, a lot of minutes, a lot of developing minutes. See if there's something there with some of them. Just pump up that trade value as much as you can, and also be open to including draft picks. Because that way, if you keep Bradley Beal and you get a secondary guy in, or maybe a first guy, depending on how you look at it, and you go into Washington having a 2-star model, that's a bonus. That's a huge bonus. Even if they don't win the championship, they'll be in the playoffs year in, year out. And in today's league, where the power shifts so dramatically from one year to the other, that's really all you can ask. And let's be honest here, if you had 2 stars in the same caliber, the same breadth of Bradley Beal, are we going to pretend like that team could not make the Eastern Conference Finals? I'm not saying they will, but if history has shown us anything, it's that 2 stars can pretty much get you anywhere. So I think it's about time we start flipping that narrative a little bit. What I'm saying here isn't that we should ignore Bradley Beal as a trade chip. If someone comes in with a major Godfather offer, something that just is filled with young players, filled with draft picks and draft pick swaps and everything you could get your hands on, yeah, you have to listen. And maybe you even have to pull the trigger. Again, it depends on value, right? But we're so busy trying to send him away, we're just forgetting to ask that really important question. Why not try to see if we can lure someone in? It's Bradley Beal after all. This is someone that if you trade, you are going to move back for a long time. You are going to be a rebuilding team. You're going to be in the bottom standings, and you won't even have fun while being that because you don't have Bradley Beal. You don't have that star you can watch every single night. Sure, there'll be some initial excitement about rookies and whatnot, but this is going to be like a 5 to 6 year project. Whereas with Beal, he's there and he's loyal. He wants to be in Washington. Let's not downplay just how huge that is. Having a guy of that caliber wanting to stay in a market that's really not that attractive is a major boon, an asset that you just cannot compare. You would want to actually build around that. You would want to not trade for Russell Westbrook. That's a little bit too late, but you catch my drift, right? You would want to actually get guys in who can play with him long term in order to maximize the effectivity of the Washington Wizards. Because why not? Why not go all in? Look, the Wizards have been pretty bad for a while. if they have just an inkling of an interest in someone who might be available, who is somewhat on the same level of as Beal, and you have all those assets and you open up your draft pick bank, go all in. It's fine. At least you would have fun.